Well, we certainly hope that our GDP would grow in that sense. However, in terms of the MLB, it's a disadvantage.
This is the point. We've already passed the 84.2.
Right.
We are at 84.4. The first proposal in March, the IMF said, doesn't fall within the DSA.
Okay.
But what the government proposed does.
Right.
Now the bondholders gave a second proposal, which is called the April proposal. When these guys went to Washington on the sidelines of the IMF and World Bank, discussions. Now in that, I'll explain this, is we have the plain vanilla for the PDIs. PDI meaning the past due interest.
Yes.
So that's understood, no?
That's right.
That's done. Then they have 1, 2, 3, 4 MLBs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they have in the middle another plain vanilla, which is not for past due interest but restructured new bonds.
Mm-hmm.
That has added what is called a GLB, which is a governance linked bond.
Right.
I'll just quickly explain that.
Right.
This Verite people came up with this interesting innovation. What they said is by 2026, I think, if the tax revenue to GDP is 14%, and in 27 it is 14.1%, and also the government discloses the procurement, who bid, who got what the bids were, etc., etc., and all the tax expenditures of the government, who got a tax-free permit to bring a car, etc., etc. All those things are made public. Then one-time adjustment of 0.5% of the coupon that is to be paid.
So it's a reward for good governance.
Reward for good governance, exactly. So if you were going to pay 6% interest, it will be 5.5% interest, but only for this one plain vanilla instrument in the middle of the MLBs, totaling up to, I think, $1.6 billion, right? Maybe one or maybe two, totaling up to that much. Mm-hmm. Now let's look at the MLBs. That's where the question is, no?
Yes.
Now what they're saying is, now let's say the test gets done at the end of 27, remember?
Yes. And
that is the average GDP in US dollar terms for 2025, 26 and 27.
A 3-year period.
3-year period. Yes. Now suppose the GDP was at that time, for that period, it ends up at $84.2 billion. Then we get it's a large calculation. I'm not going to go through all of this because the way it is done is there will be a capital recoup. You'll add to the capital, and then there is a reinstatement. There is a percentage that gets applied on it as a cut. I don't have the time to explain all this. But if it is 84.2, we will get 28% haircut.
Right.
Now, that is close to 30%. That is what the government promised us.
That's right.
Now, suppose it is 86.3, you will get a 22% haircut. Suppose it is 90.1, you get a 13% haircut. Suppose it is 93.9, you get a 10.2% haircut. Suppose on the day the test is done, our GDP average for those 3 years turned out to be anything more than $96.3 billion US dollars, the haircut will fall to 7.3%.
Well, we certainly hope that our GDP would grow in that sense. However, in terms of the MLB, it's a disadvantage.
This is the point. You are getting it. This is the point. So now we have already passed the 84.2.
Right.
We are at 84.4.
Doing better than expected.
Yes. So if you look at the various predictions of various bondholders, investors, hedge funds, banks, I was just looking to see what these various projections were, right? Now, the particular huge bank projects that the probability of Sri Lanka surpassing the 96.3 billion limit could be as high as 71%.
So that's, if we do sign on such terms, it would certainly be a huge disadvantage to the country.
Correct.
Yes.
And some people are forecasting that we might end up over $120 billion, assuming the reform goes through, assuming that the next government will continue with the investment and trade reforms, assuming the next government will put in place systems to generate the revenue, assuming all these governance conditions are met, right? Assuming people understand, that's the main thing. I want to reiterate this. People understand the need to do the absolutely essential reforms for us to survive.